I am Cassandra Miller, 32 years old, and until last month, I thought being the reliable daughter meant something to my parents. Then came that text, "We want a peaceful Thanksgiving with your sister's family this year. Maybe you could skip this one, we need space." 6 words that shattered 20 years of dutiful appearances. I replied with a single word, enjoy. They had no idea I had just purchased a villa in France, or that I was about to host the Thanksgiving celebration they would regret missing for years to come. Before I dive into what happened next, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. And hit that like and subscribe button if family drama stories make you feel better about your own holidays. Growing up as the eldest daughter of Linda and Robert Miller, I always felt the weight of expectations. My relationship with my parents was close but complicated. I was the one who checked all the boxes straight: a student, college scholarships, and a career that actually paid the bills. Yet somehow the spotlight always found my younger sister Melanie. Melanie was 5 years younger, effortlessly charming, and perpetually in need. While I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college, my parents paid Melanie's full tuition. When I saved for 2 years to buy my first car, they surprised Melanie with one on her 16th birthday. The pattern was clear, but I kept telling myself it was just my imagination. "Cassie, you know your sister needs more support," Mom would say whenever I pointed out the disparity. "You're so independent and capable." Being labeled capable became both my strength and my curse. It meant I was taken for granted while Melanie was celebrated for the smallest achievements. When I graduated with honors from Boston University, my parents attended but left early to help Melanie move into her new apartment. When I got my first promotion at 25, the family dinner celebrating it somehow turned into a planning session for Melanie's wedding. Despite these dynamics, I maintained my relationship with my family. Weekly phone calls, holiday appearances, and emergency support whenever needed. I was the one they called when Melanie's husband Tom lost his job, helping them with rent for 3 months. I was the one who researched schools when my nephew had learning difficulties. Always reliable, always there, always in the background. Last year, everything changed for me professionally. After 10 years at Nexus Technologies, I was promoted to Executive Vice President of Product Development. The position came with stock options, a significant salary increase, and new responsibilities that I had worked tirelessly to earn. For the first time, I felt financially secure enough to indulge a long-held dream, owning a piece of the French countryside I had fallen in love with during a college semester abroad. The villa wasn't an impulse purchase. I had been saving and researching for years, waiting for the right property and the right time. When a 300-year-old stone farmhouse with a small vineyard came on the market in the Dordogne region, I knew it was meant to be mine. The closing happened quickly, and by October, I was the proud owner of Villa Cassandra. I hadn't told my family yet, planning to surprise them with photos at Thanksgiving. While my career flourished, Melanie's family continued to struggle. Tom jumped between jobs, never quite finding his footing. They had 2 beautiful children, Emma and Jack, who my parents doted on as their only grandchildren. My status as single and childless was another mark against me in the family hierarchy, despite my protests that I was perfectly happy with my life choices. "You just haven't met the right person yet," my mother would say, as if my successful career and fulfilling friendships were just placeholders until the real life of marriage and children began. Beyond my immediate family, I maintained close relationships with my cousins Jordan and Sophia, my mother's brother's children. We had grown up spending summers together at our grandparents' lake house, forming bonds that remained strong into adulthood. Jordan was now a pediatrician in Chicago, married with a toddler, while Sophia worked as an architect in Seattle. We kept in touch, regularly sharing our professional triumphs and personal challenges in a way I never could with my parents or sister. My mother's sister, Aunt Eleanor, was the family member who saw through the dynamics most clearly. A professor of psychology, at 62, she had never married, but lived a vibrant life full of research, travel, and close friendships. She had always been my advocate and confidant. "Your parents love you, Cassandra," she told me once, "but they don't see you. They see what they expect to see the daughter who doesn't need them. It's not fair, but understanding it might help you find peace." Thanksgiving had always been our family's most important gathering. My mother prepared for weeks, cooking traditional recipes passed down through generations. My father handled the logistics of who slept where and which football games would be watched. Extended family arrived from across the country, and for one weekend the Miller home became the center of our universe. Last year's Thanksgiving had been particularly difficult. I had brought my then-boyfriend Michael, hoping my parents would finally see me as a complete person with a personal life. Instead, they seated us at the kids' table because we ran out of room while Tom's parents got spots at the main table. When I announced my promotion during dinner, my mother nodded politely before turning the conversation to Melanie's volunteer work at Emma's school. Michael and I broke up a month later, with my family dynamics cited as one of the reasons. Despite everything, I still looked forward to Thanksgiving this year. With my new villa and career success, I finally had something tangible to show my worth. Maybe this would be the year they finally saw me. Until that text message changed everything. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning as I was preparing for a board meeting. My phone chimed with my mother's custom tone, and I smiled, expecting our usual check-in about Thanksgiving plans just 2 weeks away. Instead, I read, "Hi, sweetie. Dad and I have been talking, and we want a peaceful Thanksgiving with just Melanie's family this year. Maybe you could skip this one. We need space. You understand, right? Love you." I stared at the screen, reading the message 3 times to make sure I understood. My hands trembled slightly as I set the phone down on my desk. The board meeting forgotten. I felt a wave of emotions crash over me. Shock, hurt, anger, and finally, a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't new behavior, just the most blatant example yet. I scrolled back through our text history, seeing the pattern with fresh eyes. "Last Christmas, we're doing gifts for just the kids this year. Don't worry about bringing anything. My birthday in March. We might be a little late to dinner. Melanie has a parent-teacher conference." Even casual conversations always circled back to my sister's life and needs. The flashbacks came unbidden. Thanksgiving last year had been especially revealing. I had arrived early to help with preparations, bringing expensive wines selected to pair with each course. My mother had put them away without comment, later serving boxed wine because Tom's parents prefer it. My father had spent the entire weekend discussing Tom's job prospects and my nephew's soccer achievements, barely asking about my promotion. "Your promotion is wonderful, honey," my mother had said when I finally brought it up directly. "But let's not make it the focus. Not everyone here is as fortunate in their careers." The memory of those words stung anew as I considered her text message. "We want a peaceful Thanksgiving" implied that my presence brought conflict. Just Melanie's family drew a clear line between who was essential and who was optional. "You understand, right?" assumed my continued compliance with being sidelined. Dr. Warner, my therapist of 3 years, had been gently trying to help me see these patterns. During our session just last week, she had posed a question that now echoed in my mind. What would happen if you prioritized your own needs, the way your parents prioritize Melanie's? My first impulse was to respond with hurt and anger. I drafted several responses, fingers flying across the keyboard. After 32 years of showing up for every family event, this is what I get. Would you like me to stop paying for Emma's tutoring too? Or just my physical presence? That's unwelcome. I understand perfectly that I've never been as important as Melanie. I deleted them all. Taking a deep breath, I recalled another piece of Dr. Warner's advice. You can't control their behavior, only your response to it. That's when the idea began to form. The villa in France. The connections with extended family who had always treated me with genuine affection. The opportunity to create something new. Something that was mine. Instead of fighting for a place at a table where I wasn't valued, I could set my own table. Instead of trying to prove my worth to people determined not to see it, I could surround myself with those who already did. With a newfound sense of calm, I typed my response, enjoy. That single word felt more powerful than any angry paragraph. It offered no resistance for them to push against, no guilt for them to manipulate, no emotion for them to dismiss. Just acceptance and the beginning of my liberation. As I sent the text, I felt something shift inside me. The constant ache of seeking approval began to subside, replaced by a surge of excitement for what I could create. My parents didn't know about the villa yet. Nobody did. They had no idea that their rejection was about to become the catalyst for something wonderful. That evening, I sat on my apartment balcony, overlooking Boston Harbor notebook, in hand, planning my alternative Thanksgiving. The hurt was still there, a dull throb beneath my breastbone, but alongside it grew a sense of possibility. For the first time in my adult life, I would celebrate a holiday entirely on my terms. Thanksgiving in France, I wrote at the top of the page, then began listing names of people I wanted to include. People who had shown me genuine love and appreciation. People who saw me clearly. People whose company brought joy rather than anxiety. As the list grew, so did my conviction. This wasn't just an alternative plan. It was a declaration of self-worth. A boundary drawn not in anger, but in self-respect. A new tradition born from the ashes of exclusion. By midnight, my heart felt lighter than it had in years. The message that had started the day as a painful rejection had transformed into an unexpected gift, the permission to finally put myself first. With only 2 weeks until Thanksgiving, I had to move quickly. The next morning I started making calls beginning with Aunt Eleanor. They did what she exclaimed when I told her about my parents' text. "Oh, Cassandra, I'm so sorry. That's beyond thoughtless." "Actually, I'm not sorry anymore," I replied, surprising myself with the truth in those words. "Because I've decided to do something different this year, and I'm hoping you'll be part of it." I told her about the villa, describing the stone walls, the rolling vineyards, and the charming nearby village. "I'm hosting my own Thanksgiving there, and I'd love for you to come." The line went quiet for a moment before Aunt Eleanor answered, her voice thick with emotion. "My darling girl, I would be honored. And may I say how proud I am of you right now?" That first positive response gave me the courage to continue. I called my cousins Jordan and Sophia next, both of whom immediately accepted. "Are you kidding? Thanksgiving in France instead of Aunt Linda's dry turkey? I'm booking flights right now," Sophia laughed. "What about your parents?" Jordan asked carefully. "Do they know about this?" "They've opted for a peaceful holiday with just Melanie's family," I explained. "This is my response." Cassie Jordan said after a pause, "This has been a long time coming. Count us in." My uncle David and Aunt Patricia, my father's brother and his wife, were equally enthusiastic. Their daughters, my cousins Madison and Leah, both in college, now squealed with delight at the idea of an international Thanksgiving. Even my mother's brother Michael and his husband James, who usually spent holidays with James's family, rearranged their plans to join us. As RSVPs came in, I felt a growing sense of validation. These people valued me enough to change their holiday plans on short notice, to book international flights, to embrace something new. Their enthusiasm was healing something deep inside me that I hadn't realized was so badly wounded. The logistics were complicated but energizing. I worked with a local property manager in France to prepare the villa, ordering additional beds and linens, stocking the kitchen, and arranging for a rental van to transport everyone from the airport. I researched traditional French markets to find ingredients for our Thanksgiving feast, planning a menu that would honor American traditions while incorporating local French specialties. The most surprising contact came 3 days after I began making arrangements. A text from Tom, Melanie's husband. "Can we talk? It's important." Cautiously, I called him during my lunch break. "Cassie, I heard you're not coming for Thanksgiving," he began. "That's right," I replied neutrally, not explaining further. "Look, things are weird right now," he continued. "Melanie doesn't know I'm calling you. Your parents told us they suggested you might want to skip this year, but something about it doesn't feel right." I appreciated his careful phrasing. Tom had always been perceptive about the family dynamics, often shooting me sympathetic glances during particularly egregious instances of favoritism. "I'm doing something different this year," I said. "I bought a villa in France, and I'm hosting Thanksgiving there." The line went silent before Tom burst out laughing. "You're kidding. That's amazing, Cassie. Wait, does anyone else know about this?" "Most of the extended family will be there," I confirmed. "Aunt Eleanor, the cousins, Uncle David's family." Another silence, longer this time. "Mel and I had a fight with your parents last week," he finally said. "About money again. They promised to help with Emma's private school tuition, then pulled back, saying they need to set boundaries. Suddenly, they're all about boundaries." I wasn't sure how to respond, but Tom continued. "I know it's complicated between you and Melanie, but would there be room for us? The kids would love to see France, and honestly, I can't face another Thanksgiving with your parents right now." My immediate reaction was resistance. Melanie had always been the center of family attention. Would inviting her just recreate the same dynamics in my new space? But as I considered Tom's request, I realized excluding them would be making decisions based on hurt rather than healing. "Let me think about it," I said honestly. "There's room physically, but I need to make sure this feels right emotionally." That night, I called Dr. Warner for an emergency session. "Am I crazy to consider including Melanie and her family? Wouldn't that just bring all the old patterns to France?" "What are you afraid would happen?" she asked. "That she'll become the center of attention again. That I'll be sidelined in my own house. Who would put her at the center?" The question stopped me short. In France, there would be no parents playing favorites. The dynamics would be different because the key players would be different. And maybe, just maybe, away from our parents' influence, Melanie and I could find a new way to relate to each other. The next day, I called Tom back. "You're all welcome to come. But Tom, this needs to be different. I need Melanie to know this is my space, my celebration." "I understand," he said quietly. "And Cassie, thank you. I think this could be good for everyone." As Thanksgiving approached, the excitement built with each confirmed flight, each menu decision, each preparation completed at the villa. What had begun as a reaction to rejection was transforming into something joyful and intentional. I was creating a new tradition, one founded on mutual respect and genuine connection. The day before my departure to France, I received another text from my mother finalizing Thanksgiving plans. What time should we expect Melanie's family? No mention of me or my absence. It was the final confirmation that I had made the right decision. "They'll let you know their plans," I replied. Simply then turned my phone off and finished packing for France. The flight from Boston to Paris gave me 10 hours of uninterrupted time to process what I was doing. Somewhere over the Atlantic, I realized I wasn't running away from my family problems. I was running towards something new, something authentic, something mine. Landing at Charles de Gaulle Airport early Wednesday morning, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The familiar language, the smells, the energy, all welcomed me back to the country I had fallen in love with years ago. I collected my rental car and began the 4-hour drive to the Dordogne region windows, down breathing in the crisp November air. The villa exceeded even my expectations. Situated on 3 acres of land with its own small vineyard, the 300-year-old stone farmhouse had been lovingly restored by its previous owners. Thick walls, exposed wooden beams, and a massive stone fireplace gave it the authentic charm I had dreamed of, while updated amenities ensured everyone would be comfortable. I spent that first day exploring every corner of my new property. The main house had 5 bedrooms, each with its own character. The master suite featured French doors opening onto a private terrace overlooking the vineyard. 3 guest rooms occupied the second floor, while the converted attic space contained a charming 5th bedroom perfect for the kids. A detached guest cottage would provide additional accommodation for Uncle Michael and James. The kitchen became my immediate favorite space. Rustic yet functional, with copper pots hanging from ceiling beams and a large farmhouse table that could seat 14, it felt like the heart of the home. I imagined family gatherings stretching long into the evening, filled with conversation and laughter. My nearest neighbors, the Moreaus, stopped by that afternoon bringing a basket of local cheeses and a bottle of walnut liqueur, a regional specialty. Despite my rusty French, we managed a warm conversation. They were delighted by my plans for an American Thanksgiving and promised to show me the best market stalls for fresh produce. Thursday morning I ventured into the nearby village of St. Cyprian. The weekly market was in full swing, with vendors selling everything from fresh vegetables to handcrafted pottery. I filled my basket with local specialties: black truffles, foie gras, tender greens, and jewel-toned root vegetables. The butcher recommended a free-range turkey from a nearby farm, which he promised to prepare for collection the following day. Returning to the villa, I began making lists and preparing what I could in advance. Cranberries weren't easily available, so I decided to make a sauce with local red berries instead. I adapted my grandmother's stuffing recipe to incorporate regional bread and herbs. The blend of American tradition and French ingredients felt symbolic of this new chapter I was creating. The first arrivals came early Friday morning. Aunt Eleanor had coordinated with Jordan and Sophia to share a rental car from the airport. Hearing tires on the gravel driveway, I rushed out to greet them. "Cassandra, this is magnificent!" Aunt Eleanor exclaimed, embracing me tightly. "You've created something truly special here." Jordan and Sophia were equally effusive, exploring the grounds with childlike excitement. "I can't believe you kept this secret," Sophia said, linking her arm through mine. "This is the most beautiful property I've ever seen." Throughout the day, more family members arrived. Uncle David and Aunt Patricia brought Madison and Leah, both of whom immediately claimed the attic bedroom. Uncle Michael and James were the last to arrive before dinner, bringing cases of wine selected by James, a passionate enophile. I had prepared a casual welcome dinner of cocoa vin, crusty bread, and local cheeses. As we gathered around the farmhouse table, conversation flowing easily, I felt a sense of rightness that had been missing from family gatherings for as long as I could remember. Here there were no hierarchies, no favorites, just genuine interest in each other's lives. The most tense moment of the day came with Melanie's arrival. Tom had rented a car large enough for their family, and they pulled up just as the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the vineyard. I stood on the front steps, watching their approach with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Melanie emerged from the car first, her expression unreadable. We hadn't spoken directly since my parents' text, communicating only through Tom. For a moment we just looked at each other across the gravel driveway. Then Emma and Jack burst from the car, breaking the tension. "Aunt Cassie!" they shouted, running toward me. At 9 and 7, they were still young enough to be uncomplicated in their affection. I knelt to hug them, then straightened to face my sister. "Welcome to Villa Cassandra," I said simply. Melanie stepped forward, her eyes taking in the property. "It's beautiful," she said quietly. Then, with visible effort, "Thank you for including us." It wasn't an apology or an acknowledgement of past dynamics, but it was a beginning. I nodded, then turned to help Tom with the luggage. That evening, I gave everyone a tour of the property. The villa came alive with exclamations of delight and the sounds of people choosing rooms and settling in. Emma and Jack were ecstatic about sharing the attic space with their older cousins Madison and Leah, who had promised to teach them card games and help them practice French. We ended the tour in the kitchen, where I had laid out local cheeses, bread, and wine for an impromptu late-night snack. As we gathered around the farmhouse table, Uncle Michael raised his glass. "To Cassandra," he said, "for bringing us together in this beautiful place. I think this might be the start of a new family tradition." As glasses clinked and smiles were exchanged, I caught Melanie watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. When our eyes met, she didn't look away but raised her glass slightly in acknowledgement. It was a small gesture, but in that moment it felt significant. Later, as I prepared for bed in my new room, I realized I hadn't checked my phone all day. When I finally did, there were 3 messages from my mother, all asking about Melanie's travel plans. Not one mentioned me or wondered where I was. The old familiar hurt flickered briefly, but this time it was quickly replaced by something else: gratitude for the genuine connections I was experiencing with the rest of my family. Setting my phone aside, I stepped onto my terrace and looked out over the moonlit vineyard. Tomorrow would be Thanksgiving, and for the first time I was truly looking forward to it. Thanksgiving morning dawned clear and crisp. I woke early before sunrise and slipped downstairs to start the coffee. Standing in the kitchen doorway watching the first light touch the vineyard, I felt a profound sense of peace. This place was mine. This day was mine. This celebration would be what I chose to make it. The house gradually came to life around me. Uncle James joined me first, offering to walk to the village bakery for fresh bread and pastries. Aunt Eleanor appeared next, immediately taking charge of breakfast preparations with quiet efficiency. One by one, family members filtered downstairs in pajamas and robes, creating a comfortable, intimate atmosphere I had never experienced at my parents' formal holiday gatherings. After a leisurely breakfast, we divided into teams. Jordan, Sophia, and I would handle the main cooking. Uncle David and Tom took the children to explore the village and pick up last-minute supplies. Aunt Patricia and Melanie worked on setting the long harvest table in the dining room, while Uncle Michael and James arranged a drink station and built a fire in the great stone fireplace. The kitchen became command central, filled with delicious aromas and lively conversation. I showed Jordan and Sophia where I had stored all the ingredients, and we began preparing dishes together. The turkey collected from the butcher the day before was seasoned with herbs from the villa's garden. Sophia prepared her famous sweet potato casserole, while Jordan tackled the mashed potatoes and gravy. "I can't remember the last time I enjoyed Thanksgiving preparations this much," Sophia commented as she chopped vegetables. "Usually it's all stress and walking on eggshells around Aunt Linda's kitchen rules." Remember when she redid your green bean casserole because you used the wrong kind of onions, Jordan laughed. Or when she made that passive-aggressive comment about your store-bought pie crust, I added, joining their laughter. Aunt Eleanor poked her head in, occasionally offering advice or an extra pair of hands when needed. You're doing beautifully, she assured me during one such visit. This is exactly what Thanksgiving should be, collaboration, not competition. Throughout the morning, my phone remained silent. No texts from my parents asking where I was or why I hadn't responded to their messages. It seemed they had accepted my absence without question, which confirmed once again that I had made the right choice. Around noon, Tom returned with the children, their cheeks flushed from the cold arms, laden with fresh flowers from the village florist and bottles of local cider. Emma and Jack excitedly showed me the French words they had learned from the shopkeepers. Merci, bonjour, s'il vous plaît, Jack recited proudly. And I can count to 10, too. As I praised their new language skills, I noticed Melanie watching from the doorway, her expression softening. It occurred to me that this might be the first time she was seeing me interact with her children without our parents present, without the subtle comparisons and competition they fostered between us. The afternoon progressed in a whirl of activity. The dining table was transformed with linen runners, candles, and flower arrangements. The children created handmade place cards for everyone, decorating them with drawings of turkeys and French flags. Madison and Leah taught Emma and Jack how to fold napkins into elaborate shapes, resulting in a table setting that was both elegant and playfully personal. Around 3 o'clock, as the turkey roasted and side dishes were being finalized, multiple phones around the villa chimed almost simultaneously. I was crimping the edge of a pie crust when Aunt Patricia called from the living room. Cassandra, you might want to see this. I wiped my hands and joined the others who were gathered around Uncle David's phone. He handed it to me wordlessly. It was a text from my mother. David, are you and Patricia doing something for Thanksgiving? Melanie isn't answering our calls and we're getting worried. We're supposed to be having dinner in an hour. Similar messages had gone to Jordan, Sophia, and Aunt Eleanor. Everyone had received some version of the same question as my parents slowly realized that not only was Melanie missing, but apparently the entire extended family had other plans. They still don't know, Sophia said, looking at me. Should we tell them? I considered the question carefully. Part of me wanted them to discover through social media, later to feel the full impact of what they had missed. But that approach felt petty, motivated by hurt rather than healing. Let's wait until after dinner, I decided. Today is about us, about this new tradition we're creating. Let's keep it positive. Everyone nodded in agreement, and we returned to our preparations. Melanie remained quiet during this exchange, but as we walked back to the kitchen together, she finally spoke directly to me. I should have told them we were coming here, she admitted. I just couldn't figure out how to explain it without making them feel bad, or making myself feel worse. You don't owe them an explanation, I replied. Neither of us do. Melanie looked at me for a long moment. When did you get so strong, Cassie? The question caught me off guard. I don't know if it's strength exactly, maybe just self-preservation. Well, whatever it is, I admire it. She hesitated, then added, and I'm sorry. For a lot of things. Before I could respond, Jack burst into the kitchen announcing that the table was ready for inspection. The moment passed, but something had shifted between us. A beginning of understanding, perhaps. As evening approached, the final preparations came together. The turkey emerged from the oven, golden and fragrant. Side dishes were transferred to serving bowls. Wines were uncorked to breathe. Everyone disappeared briefly to change for dinner, returning in festive attire that struck the perfect balance between celebration and comfort. Just before we gathered at the table, I stepped outside for a moment alone. The sun was setting over the vineyard, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I took a deep breath of the cool air filling my lungs and my heart with gratitude. This was not the Thanksgiving I had planned at the beginning of the month, but standing there I couldn't imagine wanting anything different. The dining room of Villa Cassandra had never looked more beautiful. Candles flickered on the long table, casting a warm glow over the faces of my family. The French doors stood open to the terrace, framing the last colors of sunset. Crystal glasses sparkled, silver serving dishes gleamed, and the room was filled with the mingled aromas of roasted turkey, freshly baked bread, and sweet pies cooling in the kitchen. As everyone found their places, I remained standing at the head of the table, suddenly overcome with emotion. These people had crossed an ocean to be with me, choosing my celebration over the familiar tradition. Looking at their expectant faces, I felt a surge of love and belonging that nearly brought me to tears. Raising my wine glass, I took a moment to compose myself before speaking. Thank you all for being here. A few weeks ago, I never could have imagined this moment, but now I can't imagine being anywhere else. You've helped me create something truly special, and I'm grateful for each of you. Aunt Eleanor stood next, her glass raised. To Cassandra, who has not only opened her beautiful home to us, but has reminded us what family should truly be about: unconditional love and genuine support. I've watched you grow into an exceptional woman, my dear, and I couldn't be prouder of the strength and grace you've shown. Her words touched something deep inside me, a place starved for the very validation my parents had always withheld. To be seen, to be acknowledged, to be celebrated for who I was, rather than what I could provide. It was healing in ways I hadn't known I needed. The meal progressed with an ease and joy I had never experienced at family gatherings. Dishes were passed, compliments exchanged, and conversations flowed naturally between serious topics and lighthearted banter. Jordan shared stories about his pediatric practice, while Sophia described her latest architectural project. Uncle Michael and James entertained us with tales from their recent travels in Southeast Asia. When the turkey platter reached Melanie, she served her children first, then turned to me with an unexpected smile. "This is the most delicious turkey I've ever had at Thanksgiving," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Mom would be jealous." The table went momentarily quiet at the mention of our parents, then erupted in laughter. The tension broken. Others began sharing their own stories of previous Thanksgiving disasters and family dynamics. "Remember when Aunt Linda refused to let anyone help in the kitchen, then complained for months about how no one helped?" Uncle David chuckled. "Or when Uncle Robert spent the entire meal talking about his golf game and then got offended when people started their own conversations," added Aunt Patricia. It was cathartic, this gentle acknowledgement of the difficulties we had all experienced but rarely discussed. Not mean-spirited, just honest, and somehow in the sharing those memories lost some of their power. As dessert was served pumpkin pie alongside a French tart tatin, Uncle Michael suggested we continue the tradition of sharing what we were thankful for. One by one, family members spoke their answers, ranging from heartfelt to humorous. When it came to Tom's turn, he looked directly at me. "I'm thankful for Cassandra's generosity in including us," he said sincerely, "and for showing us that sometimes the best traditions are the new ones we create ourselves." Melanie nodded beside him, adding quietly, "I'm thankful for second chances." After dessert, as coffee was being poured, Madison suggested we take a group photo to commemorate our first French Thanksgiving. We gathered in front of the fireplace, arms around each other, smiling genuinely. Leah, our designated photographer, captured several shots before suggesting, "Let's post these. Everyone back home will be so jealous." The casual comment reminded me of what awaited outside our bubble. My parents still didn't know where everyone was still expected Melanie and her family for dinner. As if on cue, Melanie's phone rang with my mother's ringtone. She glanced at me questioningly. I nodded, knowing this moment had to come eventually. Melanie answered, putting the phone on speaker. "Hi, Mom." "Melanie, where are you? We've been waiting for hours. Your father is beside himself with worry." "We're fine, Mom. We're having Thanksgiving dinner." "What do you mean? You're supposed to be having Thanksgiving with us. Where are you?" Melanie took a deep breath. "We're in France, Mom. At Cassie's villa." The silence that followed was profound. When my mother finally spoke, her voice was eerily calm. "I don't understand. Cassandra is in Boston." "No, I'm not." I called from across the room, moving closer to the phone. "I'm in France in my new home with the whole family." "The whole family," she repeated faintly. "Everyone except you and Dad," I confirmed. "Aunt Eleanor, Uncle David, and his family, Uncle Michael and James, Jordan, Sophia. We're all here." Another long silence followed. I could almost hear her mind working, trying to process this information that so completely upended her understanding of the situation. "But we told you. We wanted a peaceful Thanksgiving," she finally said. Her voice a mixture of confusion and accusation. "Yes, you did," I replied evenly. "And that's exactly what we're having." The line went dead. She had hung up. Within minutes, phones throughout the villa began chiming with notifications. My parents were calling everyone, demanding explanations, expressing hurt and confusion. Most calls went unanswered, as we collectively decided to return to our celebration, to not let their reaction intrude on the warmth and connection we had created. Later, as family members dispersed to various corners of the villa for quiet conversations or games, Leah approached to show me the photos she had posted. They were beautiful captures of our gathering. The elegant table, the joyful faces, the vine-covered stone walls of the villa visible through the French doors. She had captioned it simply, "Best Thanksgiving ever. Number French villa life. Number new traditions." The comments were already accumulating, friends and acquaintances expressing admiration and envy. But the one that caught my eye was from my high school friend Alicia. "Does your mom know you're all there without them? Bold move, Cassie." It was happening. The carefully constructed narrative my parents had maintained for years, that we were a close, happy family with them at the center, was being challenged publicly. Their social circle would see that their entire extended family had chosen to be with me instead. "Are you okay?" Aunt Eleanor asked, finding me alone on the terrace a while later. "I am," I replied, realizing with surprise that it was true. "It's strange. I thought I'd feel vindicated or triumphant, but mostly I just feel peaceful." She nodded, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders against the evening chill. "That's how you know this was the right choice. Decisions made from spite bring satisfaction, but never peace." As the evening progressed, the atmosphere remained warm and festive despite the brief interruption. Jordan and Sophia organized an impromptu dance party in the living room, teaching the children the moves to songs from our own childhood. Uncle Michael and James engaged Tom in a spirited debate about wine regions. Aunt Patricia and Uncle David cuddled on the sofa, looking more relaxed than I had seen them in years. Around 11, as the party was winding down, my phone rang. It was my father. With a deep breath, I stepped outside to take the call. "Where is everyone?" he demanded without preamble. "Your mother is in tears." "I told you, Dad. We're in France. At my villa." Your what? Since when do you have a villa? Since last month. It would have been nice if either of you had been interested enough in my life to know that. The silence that followed told me the barb had hit home. Why would you do this, Cassandra? He finally asked, his tone softening from anger to genuine confusion. Why take everyone away for Thanksgiving? You told me to skip it, I reminded him. You said you wanted space. I gave you exactly what you asked for. We didn't mean for you to take the entire family to another continent. What did you expect me to do, Dad? Sit alone in my apartment, eating microwave turkey while you had your peaceful dinner with the family members you actually wanted there? His sigh was heavy with the first hints of recognition. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, I replied, my voice steady. And it's been like that for as long as I can remember. Before he could respond, I added, I need to get back to my guests now. We can talk tomorrow if you want. As I ended the call and rejoined the gathering inside, I realized something important had shifted. For the first time, I had spoken my truth without anger or accusation, just simple, calm honesty. And for the first time, my father might have actually heard me. The morning after Thanksgiving dawned with a gentle mist hanging over the vineyard. I woke early, my mind already busy processing the events of the previous day. Making my way downstairs, I found Aunt Eleanor already in the kitchen preparing coffee. Couldn't sleep, she asked, sliding a mug toward me. Too much thinking, I admitted. Mom and Dad have been calling all night. I finally turned my phone off. She nodded sympathetically. You'll have to talk to them eventually. I know. Just not sure what to say. We sat in companionable silence, watching the mist lift as the sun strengthened. One by one, other family members appeared, drawn by the smell of coffee and the freshly baked croissants James had walked to the village to purchase. The conversation was subdued, but content, everyone still basking in the glow of the previous evening's success. Around mid-morning, as I was helping Emma and Jack build a fort in the living room, Melanie approached with my phone in hand. It's been ringing non-stop, she said. Maybe we should just get this over with. Taking a deep breath, I nodded and accepted the phone. I'll take it in the study. My mother answered on the first ring. Cassandra, finally? We've been trying to reach you all night. I know, Mom. I needed some space. The irony of echoing her words back to her wasn't lost on me. We need to talk about what happened yesterday, she continued, her voice tight with controlled emotion. Your father and I were completely blindsided. Do you have any idea how hurtful it was to discover that the entire family was together without us? The old guilt reflex kicked in immediately, a lifetime of conditioning to prioritize their feelings over my own. But Dr. Warner's voice echoed in my mind. Your feelings are just as valid as theirs. Do you have any idea how hurtful it was to be told not to come to Thanksgiving? I countered quietly. To be excluded from my own family gathering. That's not what we meant. What did you mean then? Skip this one, we need space. Those were your exact words. We just wanted a quiet holiday with Melanie's family. You know how stressful the big gatherings can be. They're only stressful because you make them that way, Mom. And they're only big because you invite all of Dad's work colleagues but somehow couldn't find room for me at the main table last year. Her sharp intake of breath told me she remembered that slight, though she had dismissed my feelings about it at the time. That's not fair, she protested weakly. None of this has been fair, I replied. For years I've watched you prioritize Melanie, make excuses for her, celebrate her smallest achievements while barely acknowledging mine. I've accepted the leftovers of your attention and convinced myself it was enough, because that's what good daughters do. Right. They don't complain. They don't make waves. They just keep showing up and hoping that someday they'll be seen. The words poured out years of unspoken hurt, finally finding voice. Not in anger, but in simple, calm truth. When I finished, the line was so quiet, I thought she might have hung up. "Mom." "I'm here," she said, her voice small. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything right now. Just listen." Before she could respond, there was a commotion on her end of the line, and my father's voice came through. "Cassandra, it's Dad. Put Melanie on, please. We need to speak with her." Of course. Even now they were looking past me to Melanie. "She's not available right now," I said, a renewed determination straightening my spine. "But I am. I'm right here trying to have an honest conversation with you both about some very painful dynamics in our family." "This isn't the time." "When is the time, Dad? Because for 32 years, it's never been the right time to discuss how you and Mom have made me feel invisible." "That's ridiculous. We've always supported you." "Have you? When was the last time you asked about my work, my friends, my dreams? When was the last time you celebrated my achievements without immediately changing the subject to Melanie's life?" His silence was telling. "I don't need you to answer right now," I continued, my voice softening. "I just need you to think about it. Really think about it." The study door opened, and Melanie slipped in, questioning me with her eyes. I nodded, putting the phone on speaker. "Mom, Dad, it's Melanie. I'm here with Cassie." "Melanie, thank goodness. Are you all right? When are you coming home?" My mother's voice immediately brightened. Melanie looked at me steadily as she replied, "We're staying through the weekend as planned. And Mom, you need to listen to what Cassie's saying. She's right." "What do you mean she's right?" My father's defensive tone returned. "About how you treat her compared to me," Melanie clarified. "I've seen it too, for years. I just never said anything because—" She hesitated. "Because it benefited me, I guess. And that wasn't fair." The silence that followed her admission was profound. I reached across the desk to squeeze her hand, overwhelmed by her unexpected support. "I don't understand what's happening," my mother finally said, her voice trembling. "We've always tried to be good parents. We love you both." "I know you do," I acknowledged. "But love without respect or recognition isn't enough. And that's what I've been missing: your respect for my choices, your recognition of my worth outside of what I can do for the family." "What do you want from us?" my father asked, his usual confidence noticeably absent. "I want you to really see me," I answered simply. "Not as an extension of yourselves, not as Melanie's sister, not as the reliable one who'll always be there no matter how you treat her. Just me, Cassandra, with my own life and needs and feelings." Another long pause followed before my mother spoke again, her voice small but steady. "We can try. I'm not sure we know how, but we can try." It wasn't a complete acknowledgement of everything I'd said, but it was a beginning, more than I had honestly expected. "That's all I'm asking," I said. "And if you're willing to try, you're welcome to join us next year, here at the villa." "Next year?" my father questioned. "Yes. This is going to be our new tradition. Thanksgiving at Villa Cassandra." After we ended the call, Melanie and I sat in silence for a moment, processing what had just happened. Finally, she spoke. "I'm sorry, Cassie, for not speaking up before, for accepting their favoritism all these years." "It's not your fault," I told her honestly. "They set the dynamic. We just played the roles we were given. Still, I want things to be different between us going forward." "I'd like that too." The remainder of the weekend passed in a blur of sightseeing, shared meals, and genuine connection. We explored the local village, visited nearby castles, and spent evenings around the fire playing games and sharing stories. With each passing day, I felt myself relaxing more fully into this new reality. One where I was valued, where my home was. The gathering place where family meant mutual support rather than obligation. By Sunday, as family members began departing for their flights home, the villa felt imbued with new memories and possibilities. Hugs were longer promises to return more sincere. Even Melanie's goodbye felt different, a genuine warmth replacing our usual polite distance. "Thank you," she whispered as we embraced, "for including us even when you had every reason not to." "That's what family should do," I replied, realizing as I said it that I finally understood what that meant. In the months that followed, small but significant changes emerged in my relationship with my parents. Our weekly calls became more balanced with questions about my life given equal time. When I shared news about a major client signing at work, they listened with genuine interest rather than immediately changing the subject. It wasn't perfect. Decades of patterns couldn't be erased overnight, but it was progress. As the next Thanksgiving approached, planning began early. My parents accepted the invitation to Villa Cassandra with a humility that would have been unimaginable a year earlier. The guest list expanded to include close friends as well as family, creating a gathering that was both intimate and vibrant. And when my mother arrived at the villa, her first words to me were not about the journey or the accommodations, but a simple acknowledgement that had been 33 years in the making. "This is extraordinary, Cassandra. You've created something beautiful here. I'm so proud of you." Standing in my own home, surrounded by people who truly saw me, I felt a peace I had searched for my entire adult life. The journey hadn't been easy, and there would always be challenges in navigating family dynamics. But I had found my voice, drawn my boundaries, and created a space where I could be fully myself. Sometimes the greatest act of love is not accommodation, but truth. Sometimes the most powerful response to rejection is not anger, but creation. And sometimes the family we need is the one we build ourselves piece by piece, choice by choice, until we find ourselves at home in our own lives. Have you ever had to create your own traditions when family expectations became too much? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize their own happiness. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And remember, the most beautiful traditions are often the ones we have the courage to create ourselves.